Um, so, hi everyone. Thank you all for being here today and committing some time to discuss COVID-19, a topic that's deeply important to me and to the future of the trans community overall. My name is Cooper Kidd, and today I'll be talking about building trans resiliency in the era of COVID-19. This conversation is about community care, ongoing risk, and the legacy of mutual aid that queer and trans communities have built for generations. So I find it helpful to know what's happening during the presentation. So here's an overview of how we'll spend our time here today. We'll start with grounding, so who I am and why this topic matters. Then we'll talk about the pandemic as a mirror for systemic inequities before moving on into trans resiliency and mutual care. After that, we'll discuss ways to protect ourselves and others and how we build people power and collective futures. After that, we'll do 2 breakout rooms focused on connection, and after that, we'll end with a short reflection and a Q&A. So a little bit about me. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area on the ancestral lands of the Piscataway, and I now live in Philly on the ancestral lands of the Lenni Lenape. I'm a PhD student in community health and prevention at Drexel University, where I study stress with Latinx assigned male at birth folks, and where my dissertation will be on stress and coping strategies employed by immunocompromised individuals who continue to take COVID precautions. I'm a queer, non-binary, transmask, asexual, and neurodivergent person, and my work focuses on COVID-19 and its impact on communities using a disability justice lens, and much of what I speak about today comes from years of engaging with COVID-cautious communities and from my own lived experience. For visual accessibility, I'm a light-skinned Asian person who wears glasses. In the picture on the screen, I have black hair, but my hair is currently kind of like purple-ish, and I'm currently wearing a shirt that is the colors of, I guess what you call like a holiday shirt, holiday colors. I guess I match a Christmas tree. I guess that's one way of phrasing that. So before moving forward, I want to name the privilege that I have because it shapes how I move through the world. And I firmly believe that we can't have an honest, transparent presentation with me as a facilitator without me acknowledging my privilege first. Firstly, I'm a trans person living on stolen land. And while I was brought to the US through adoption into a white family, I have and continue to benefit from whiteness, financial access, education, and resources. I also work in and for systems that uphold capitalism, colonialism, and structural inequities. To frame today's presentation, I want to state that we are still in a pandemic, which has been ongoing since 2020, when COVID-19 first arrived, and it has remained a constant part of our world. I say this not to create and spread fear and worry, but rather to help us acknowledge reality with clarity so that we can make informed decisions about mutual care, risk, and safety as COVID has not disappeared. Rather, our systems have stopped responding to it in a meaningful way. And for people who exist in community with other trans folks, which is all of us, our communities and networks continue to be impacted. So it is our responsibility to stay informed, practice mutual care, and develop resiliency together. So this slide highlights the ongoing pandemic, with both of the figures shown on the screen coming from Tulane University's Pandemic Mitigation Collaborative's wastewater-based estimates of new daily COVID-19 infections. Please note that this is specific to the United States. The graph on the left shows infection levels from 2020 through November 24th, 2025, which is the last time I pulled this data, with a huge Omicron peak in early 2022. The tallest spike on the chart, which reached over 5 million estimated new infections per day. However, even after that, COVID does not go away, as you can see in the graph. Instead, we see repeating patterns of large waves every few months, typically between 500,000 and 3 million new daily infections. These waves continue consistently through 2023, 2024, and 2025, past when the CDC declared the pandemic over or endemic in 2023. And on November 2025, which is the most recent point highlighted, the US is estimated to have around 422,000 new infections every day. And the figure on the right showcases the fact that the pandemic is not over well. And it also showcases the cascading impacts of COVID-19. and shows that not only are there a lot of new infections occurring, though it is currently lower than during the higher points of transmission, but also that even with this lower number of infections, though lower than during higher points of transmission, but even with this low number of infections, between 133,000 to 530,000 people are impacted by long COVID, which tends to most impact the trans community. And a huge number of long COVID infections. This huge number of long COVID infections has led to COVID being called a mass disabling event among COVID cautious individuals. Long COVID can impact a person's ability to work, socialize, and even live independently. And the takeaway here is that COVID-19 remains an ongoing, high-volume pandemic with repeated waves, even long after public health systems stopped caring, and many people are being disabled every day, even from so-called mild infections, which is a true public health emergency that's currently being underreported. So the pandemic has also highlighted and intensified existing inequities. Trans people already face stigma and discrimination, housing insecurity, and health disparities, and many more challenges, as many of us know. In fact, as many of us are likely to know, trans people are more likely to experience long COVID and face higher rates of chronic conditions than their cisgender peers. And many trans people and many people with long COVID struggle to find competent, affirming healthcare. So when you combine gender identity, chronic illness, disability, and systemic neglect, these vulnerabilities only multiply. COVID-19 has further illuminated these inequities and showcased the ways that communities care for each other when other systems fail through mutual aid. We must remember that trans and queer people have always built our own systems of support. During the HIV/AIDS epidemic, ACT UP disrupted government inaction and fought for our survival. And today, organizations like the People's CDC continue that lineage by providing accessible public health guidance when institutions do not. And COVID cautiousness is only part of that legacy. Masking, ventilation, and accessibility. These are all parts of mutual care, ways that we can show up for each other when institutions will not. In fact, these are the ways that we can practice not only mutual care, but disability justice in a tangible way. So now I want to talk about practical ways to protect ourselves and our communities. The first way is by staying informed on COVID-19 and other public health related information. One accessible tool is the People's CDC's biweekly weather report, which is a biweekly weather report on the state of public health in the United States. A second way is through masking with high quality masks, which are one of the strongest single layer protections we have and should be worn, especially indoors and in healthcare settings. The third is through ventilation with air purifiers, cracked windows, Corsi Rosenthal boxes, which help reduce viral transmission dramatically. Fourth is testing and isolation, which should be done if you think you are sick, as well as staying home when ill. And lastly, if you have not already and if you're able, you can now get your COVID-19 booster and other vaccines, such as the flu vaccine, to lessen the impact of illness should you become infected. Important to note is that the new booster is actually currently available. Along with these protections, we also need to remember that care is not individual. It's a collective act, and connecting with others who are COVID cautious can be grounding and empowering, allowing us the opportunity to build trans resilience and allow our communities to thrive. Being in community with others helps strengthen care and build power. And others can help strengthen care and build power, and there are many ways that we can do this. There are online communities like COVID cautious comrades and still COVID groups that hold online meetups and also allow folks to share resources. And there are also local groups that exist as well. Some of them are the Clean Air Club in Chicago, and where I live in Philly, there's a group called Lockdown and Out, which holds in-person events for those of us who are still taking precautions. I think it is also important to support events with COVID protocols when you can, so that these type of events keep happening and others outside of the community know that these events are valued and important. We can also ask for COVID precautions as well. And one way to do this is by framing COVID precautions as an accessibility need, because they are. Access is a right and not an inconvenience. And if your community has a local mask block or mutual aid network, getting involved can help build people power and connection. Getting connected is one way we can build a collective, equitable, and sustained future where everyone is included. So now we're going to shift into our breakout rooms. These are intentionally short and loosely structured. There will be 2 breakout rooms with warnings on time, and each will be about 5 to 7 minutes long. So the goal is simply to meet 1 or 2 new people, share what makes you feel cared for right now, and exchange skills or ideas for navigating COVID. You're also welcome to share contact information, and you should be able to unmute yourself, but please only do so if it feels good and there's no pressure at all to do so. So let me figure out how to do that. I'm going to stop the recording.